On 15th Avenue South, tucked away in a quiet suburban Richfield neighborhood, sits a little green house. From the outside, it looks much like its neighbors. Ordinary, unremarkable, but in this case, deceiving.
It was a hellhole.
A hellhole.
Of a hellhole, yeah.
20-year-old Andrew Davies grew up inside the home, a place neighbors drove by, but few outsiders were ever allowed in.
No kid should have to suffer through that at all.
Andrew was the oldest of 8 special needs children, all fostered and adopted by Betsy Davies and her adult daughter Erin. A blended family that, on the surface, seemed like the Brady Bunch.
And none of them ever said a word.
Even close family friend Jessica Ballantyne says she had no idea that behind the closed door and Christmas wreath, for the Davies children, life was not so pretty.
I feel very foolish that I didn't discover it sooner.
The happy family image was shattered in mid-January. Betsy Davies had died a few weeks earlier. Court and child protection records show Erin, for at least the past 6 months, was regularly drinking until numb. On the night of January 9th, records show she was intoxicated, passed out, and the kids could not wake her. Andrew, feeling lost and afraid, knowing he couldn't care for all the kids on his own,
I just couldn't do anymore.
called a family friend and said, "Help."
And that's when I found and discovered the condition of the home.
When Jessica arrived to pick up the kids, this is what she found.
I was horrified.
Garbage piled everywhere, floors rotting through, ceilings caving in.
If you look up here, there's black mold all over, and it looks like the floor from above is about to fall through.
We saw it firsthand a few days later, after a group of friends had already spent hours hauling trash in soiled mattresses outside. What bare floor there was still filthy.
Stuck to the floor.
Bedrooms filled chest high with bags of old clothes. The door to the main bathroom sitting in the middle of the tub that obviously wasn't being used.
I feel horrible that they never said anything, that they were living this way.
Living in a home that most can't stand
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
to be in for long.
Oh my gosh.
I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Everything closed and soiled, pull-ups and cat feces, syringes, pill bottles everywhere. It was not a safe environment for children to be living in.
Jessica's discovery set in motion a string of events. Child maltreatment reports, juvenile court proceedings, child protection taking the kids, Erin Davies entering alcohol detox, and a city inspector viewing the home in February, slapping a padlock on the door. What Andrew called a hellhole, the city ruled unsafe for human occupancy.
It raises the question, just how long has it been this way? Our investigation uncovered evidence that shows the kids could have and probably should have been helped much sooner. What we discovered is an apparent complete breakdown in the system by state and county workers whose very job it is to ensure the vulnerable children taken into this home by the Davies were healthy and safe.
This system, in my opinion, has damaged these kids as much as the people they lived with.
This woman, who asked we not show her face, says she used to be close with the Davies family,
It's just so sad.
and the conditions inside the house
And that was years ago.
had been that way for years.
I had found one of the cats that had been missing for a while.
She describes scraping that long, dead cat off the floor of a child's bedroom.
And I had to scrape it up off of the floor, and that was the most horrific thing I've ever done.
Looking over photos taken inside the home,
Best way to describe it is disgusting.
Andrew says the family had been living that way nearly as long as he can remember. He lived in a bedroom at the back of the basement.
How did you get back to down the stairs and back to your bedroom?
Climb over stuff, or I would clean like a pathway to my room.
You actually had to climb over stuff just to get down to your bedroom?
Yeah.
And what's even more alarming, friends say Hennepin County Child Protection was warned about it years ago.
You made reports to Child Protective Services?
I have in the past, yes.
This is one of the issues that you brought up when you got a hold of CPS?
It is. It is.
And that was years ago.
Years ago. And it's exactly the same.
This letter shows that someone else made a report to Hennepin County Child Protection in 2010, alleging a child was maltreated. But CPS determined Child Protective Services are not needed. Child protection investigations are secret, so we don't know if they actually inspected the house, but nothing seemed to change.
And after the second call, and it was still unsubstantiated, I just stopped making calls. I didn't feel like it was going to get anywhere anyway.
And we discovered Hennepin County Child Protection is not the only government agency to drop the ball.
Because the kids have special needs, they qualified for Minnesota's Personal Care Assistance Program, run by the Department of Human Services. That paid tens of thousands of dollars to the family. State law requires a qualified professional visit the home twice a year. Their job, to ensure the kids' health and safety needs are met. What's more, a Hennepin County public health nurse also is required to visit the home each year to do an assessment. This is a copy of the assessment done for Andrew Davies last July. A nurse wrote, he's living in a neat and clean home.
I wonder if they were at the neighbor's house, because I don't understand how that could have been, that report could have been made that way.
So just how did Child Protection, the State Department of Human Services, and a county health nurse keep missing something as obvious as the condition inside this home?
Did they ever send anybody into the house to look at the house?
Yes, but we would only go in the living room.
Andrew says Betsy and Aaron would clean up the front living room just enough to be acceptable and close doors leading to the rest of the home.
Nobody ever went past the living room?
No.
The nurses would come and they never saw your bedroom, they never saw the bathroom, they never saw the kitchen?
No, never.
Why not?
I don't know, that's a good question.
Yeah, this case raises lots of questions, not just about Hennepin County and the state's failure to protect these children, but also about what appears to be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fraud that taxpayers were funding. We're going to have that part of our investigation tomorrow night. Really, what we've turned up is evidence that taxpayers have been footing the bill to keep children living in filthy and unsafe conditions while state and county workers turn a blind eye.
20-year-old Andrew Davies is a young man with an eye set firmly on the road ahead.
Yeah.
The past is not a place he wants to dwell.
And I want to move on.
But Andrew's past is now at the center of a state investigation into Medicaid fraud.
We're going to be investigating this more.
Launched when Carol Levin presented evidence to Jerry Kerber,
Oh, wow.
the Inspector General for the Minnesota Department of Human Services.
Well, this is interesting.
Carol Levin's investigation has turned up evidence that taxpayers have been footing the bill, while local and state officials missed warnings that Andrew and the other children were living in horrific conditions.
No kid should have to suffer through that at all.
To understand what Andrew suffered, you have to know about the home on 15th Avenue South in Richfield he grew up in.
It's embarrassing as hell.
Last night, we showed you the conditions where Andrew and his blended family of 7 younger adopted children lived. Trash and dirty laundry filled rooms chest deep. The kids said they often slept on bare mattresses stained with animal feces and urine.
Cat poop on the floor, cat pee sometimes everywhere.
But that's not all we found. Carol Levin also uncovered these records that show for years your tax dollars have been paying for the children's care that does not appear to have been provided as claimed.
Because all the kids had varying levels of special needs, they qualified for in-home personal care assistance, a Medicaid program run by Minnesota's Department of Human Services. But our investigation raises questions about how tens of thousands of tax dollars have been spent on care Andrew says wasn't truly needed or received. For example, Andrew's records show for years his personal care assistant, or PCA, was paid to help him with dressing, grooming, toileting, eating, and bathing. This report from 5 years ago claimed he was incontinent, wears pull-up diapers at all times, and the PCA has to help in cleaning him up.
That's not true.
No, not at all.
Just last year, a report said he was still incontinent.
How long have you been going to the bathroom by yourself with no problems?
A long time. Yeah, ever since I was 5, probably.
Another report claims Andrew's PCA worker had to set up the bathroom for bath and assist in cleanup of the bathroom after use. Just look at the bathrooms when we saw them. A floor rotted, a ceiling caving in.
Here, that's all black and old.
In fact, The door to the main bathroom was sitting in the middle of the tub that obviously wasn't being used. So was someone cashing in on Andrew and the other kids? Records show Betsy Davies adopted Andrew and 5 younger children. Her daughter, Erin Davies, adopted 2 other children. Turns out, Betsy was being paid as the PCA for Erin's kids, and Erin was being paid as the PCA for Betsy's. This while all of them lived together under one roof. In this timesheet from late December of last year, Betsy Davies claimed to work 38 hours providing PCA care to one of Erin's adopted sons. The same week, Erin claims to spend 21 hours working with one of Betsy's daughters and another 34 hours helping Andrew.
No,
Didn't happen?
no. I mean, I could eat myself. I can dress myself. Yeah, I did it on my own.
How many hours a week would you say she was helping the kids, helping you?
Once, probably every 2 weeks.
Juvenile court records filed in January seem to back up Andrew's claim. They say Erin regularly drank until numb, to the point of passing out, often leaving Andrew, the boy who supposedly couldn't even go to the bathroom by himself, in charge. Family friend Jessica Ballantyne discovered the truth about the house when Betsy Davies died in early January. With Erin passed out drunk, Andrew called Jessica asking for help.
Oh my God.
What she found turned her stomach.
That's also horrifying, right? To know as a taxpayer that I was paying for these children to be living this way.
So was Erin Davies and her mom billing taxpayers for hours they didn't work? Wanting answers, we tried calling and emailing Erin Davies without any luck.
Excuse me, Miss Davies. From Care 11, we want to ask you some questions about the PCA hours you claim you were working.
So we tracked her down.
Were you lying on those timesheets, or were you actually working those hours?
She didn't say a single word. But Jerry Kerber, the man at DHS whose job it is to investigate PCA fraud, had plenty to say when we showed him the results of our investigation and played for him Andrew's allegations.
Bathing, eating.
No,
Didn't happen?
no.
Looking at what we've just showed you, does this look to be like a serious problem?
There certainly are some inconsistencies that need to be sorted out, and we will proceed in doing that.
Our investigation discovered this is not an isolated case. Fraud runs rampant in the taxpayer-funded PCA program, and it's been a problem for years.
At $600 million a year, PCA funds make up just 7% of Minnesota's Medicaid budget, but constitute 43% of Medicaid fraud investigations. Joel Alter works in the Minnesota office of the legislative auditor.
Found some pretty significant problems in the program at that time.
He authored a report in 2009 that found the PCA program was unacceptably vulnerable to fraud and abuse and lacks sufficient state oversight and accountability. One of the problems he highlighted, few spot reviews of randomly selected PCA agencies like About You Inc. That's the company that was supposed to supervise Erin and Betsy. But our investigation found, 6 years later, DHS is just starting those random audits.
You said you're initiating the random audits. When do you expect to start that?
We're starting that this month.
Meanwhile, Andrew and the other Davies kids are left to wonder. Why didn't Child Protection intervene when they were warned? Why didn't the Davies PCA agency notice problems? And how could a public health nurse who visited last summer possibly report to DHS that they were living in a neat and clean home? The same home recently found unsafe for human occupancy.
Something definitely could have been done earlier.
Yeah, Erin Davies, she's not facing any charges, but as you just heard, DHS tells us they have opened an official investigation based on the evidence that we showed them.
Our other top story tonight, the Minnesota Attorney General filed charges against a woman today at the center of a Care 11 investigation. The AG's office began their investigation back in May after the Care 11 investigative team exposed children left to live in filth while taxpayers footed the bill for their care.
Investigative reporter AJ Legault joins us now with the new developments. AJ?
Julie, Randy, 11 felony counts of theft by false representation. That's what this criminal complaint filed today charges Erin Davies with. In essence, ripping off taxpayers by falsely claiming to provide personal care assistance to special needs children.
Down through the ceiling here. Trash-filled rooms. You don't want to stand in here, that's all black and old. Bare mattresses stained with animal feces and urine. The images from inside the Richfield home where 8 special needs children lived have left a bad taste in the mouth of all who see them.
And I think it fails Minnesota, frankly.
Including Minnesota Attorney General Lori Swanson.
I've seen your video, and these children were living in just abject squalor conditions.
But Carol Evans' investigation found not just children living in squalor, but also their caregivers, 34-year-old Erin Davies and her now deceased mom Betsy, billing taxpayers for Medicaid-funded personal care assistance, or PCA services, for Andrew Davies and 2 other adopted kids that didn't appear to have been provided as claimed.
Didn't happen?
No.
Any idea what was being done for all the PCA money that she was being paid?
I have no idea, man. I couldn't tell you.
After our stories aired, the Attorney General vowed to investigate.
That type of conduct would be fraud upon the taxpayer.
Today, this 11-count complaint was filed, charging Davies with defrauding taxpayers of more than $26,000 since 2009. It details Davies billing for PCA hours when the kids were in school. She claimed to be helping Andrew at the same time he was actually at work. Carol Evans' investigation found state billing records showing on September 1st of last year, Erin claimed to provide Andrew with 15 hours of PCA care when Facebook posts showed she was playing the ponies with friends at Canterbury Park. We exposed how last summer, while in Vegas, Erin billed the state claiming to provide PCA care for kids who were back in Minnesota. The AG's office corroborated Carol Evans' findings that Erin billed for PCA services that could not have been provided. On top of the Vegas trip, the criminal complaint shows she claimed to be helping the kids at the exact same time Facebook shows nights out at Toby Keith's bar, the Garth Brooks concert, and Cowboy Jack's bar. The list of partying on the taxpayer dime while the kids she was claiming to be caring for lived in filth goes on and on and on.
I wanted to ask you about the 11-count complaint.
We called Erin today to discuss the charges.
She hung up.
She's refused to answer questions about her actions since we first began investigating last January.
Were you ripping off taxpayers by lying about the PCA hours you were working?
She didn't answer our questions. She'll now have to answer questions before a judge. If convicted on all counts, Erin Davies faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison and tens of thousands of dollars in fines.
So there's a lot of kids that were in her care. What happened to them and where are they now?
Well, the kids are still in the foster care system. Some have been placed with families, others are in group homes, and there's actually a family court hearing on this Wednesday.